This is an audio-visual response to the readings of Sean Jacobs and Clapperton Mavunga and their class presentation. Each one of us will reflect on what they learned and their experience working on the project. Welcome. This topic really interested me from the jump because of my general interest in post-colonial studies and decolonial projects. One of the best things I got from working on this project was exposure to pop culture and conversations that are happening all over Africa. Africa as a country was like discovering a hidden gem for me. As a Cuban, reading in English about the soldiers Castro sent to the Congo in the 60s from the perspective of an African was really enlightening. People that have been falsely represented must take their narratives into their own hands. One way of doing this is to create their own media publications, podcasts, TV shows, etc. I think something that both Clapperton and Jacobs can agree on is the use of massive global technology for local solutions. Working on this project really solidified my understanding that technological determinism is not the end-all be-all. It's clear that more often than not, if not all the time, people give technology its meaning, and we will always find ways of using technology that fit our needs.
What impacted me the most and what I focused on the most with this project was the similarities between Africa and Dominican Republic, where I was raised. We both have very similar misrepresentation and media growth and its impact in society, and how society has kind of taken them in to create their own voice. It's very similar. And after the presentation, I had a conversation with Clapperton, and I must say that I agree with him, and I'm very much identified with his vision of not giving everything into politics and media and technology, but taking it back to the basics and just focusing on the people and taking it into our own hands to portray and define how we want to be portrayed, and basically take control of our identity and who we are and how we want to be seen.
This is a response to Alyssa's response, and I have to say that I also felt the same with South America, and that there were a lot of similarities of misrepresentation, pinning people with drugs and corruption and violence, and Clapperton's take on looking at the grassroots is really a positive way of looking at things, and it does reframe the conversation. I think as long as Africans, South Americans, Dominican Republic, and any other countries reframe the way that they could take control of their destiny and look at how they portray and take back their identity, everybody will be much better off for it.
In 2003, I visited South Africa, Mozambique, Zambia, and Botswana with a friend that had been volunteering through Western aid organizations for 8 years. I had opinions about how to help them and questions about how the African people would make it on a global scale. My idea of making it was coming from my limited Western view. Fast forward 13 years, and my opinion about Africa evolved to one of sustainability and what resilience and innovation at a grassroots level looks like. With examples of iCal, Hello Tractor, Africa as a Country, and other platforms, Africans are helping themselves and making technology African, as Clapperton Mavunga says. In the 2015 article, Is Africa's Growth Sustainable?, ex-Mexican President Ernest Cedillo says African economies have come a long way. Much credit is due to domestic conditions and decisions of Africans themselves. Africans are turning inward, taking inventory of their needs, projecting them onto themselves, and participating in the mediascape. Their respect for the environment, hunting practices, and small-scale changes provide a sustainable model for the rest of the world to use for progress instead of the boom and bust one of the West.
Pamela, I really liked and agreed with everything that you said and the examples that you gave about how Africa is becoming sustainable and how they're using technology, and technology is helping them achieve those goals of sustainability. I think it gives us a lot of hope for the future. It's really inspiring, not only for Africa as a continent, but for all the places that have been negatively affected by colonization.
In response to my fellow classmates in the group, I think, and I think we're still lumping Africa in one clump. I think that even myself have done that, and I think what just a takeaway from that is that Africa is very diverse, and their methods of innovation are going to be diverse. So some might want to stand on their own and take it back to the people, and others might say we tried that before and we want outside influence. I think either approach needs to be looked at and respected.
The one thing that was clear about the presentation in Africa is that African people must stand on their own to successfully be independent. It seems that if foreign influences are at all able to come into the country or the countries, they will exploit the country for their own personal uses. Google, Facebook, and these multinational corporations seem to wish to give a helping hand, but what we don't understand is that by them opening up charter schools and dictating how another country learns is kind of a source of oppression. What Clapperton showed was that Africa is innovating for themselves, because in order to stand tall, you must be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And I think that Africa is doing that, and that can be a great example for the rest of the world.